Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain, where here we are, nerdy for the birdies. Welcome to anyone who is discovering this channel for the first time. You're probably tired of seeing mock drafts, and maybe you were lucky enough to get recommended this one, but this is my first and only full mock draft for the entire NFL, where I'm going to be making the picks for the first round. Given the draft is coming out tomorrow. I'm recording this technically Tuesday night, but it'll be out Wednesday. So without further ado, we're going to get into this mock draft. There's going to be trades and a good bit of them. I wouldn't say this is predictive. This is just kind of a vibe, how I'm feeling type draft. And I'm like, let's have some fun. Let's have a little bit of chaos. Nothing too crazy. Like, nothing that's unrealistic to happen. Just stuff that is just interesting philosophy. So, starting off at the first overall pick, I'm not wasting time on this. It's going to be Fernando Mendoza for the Raiders. I'm not going to make a trade here or anything like that. I think this one's pretty much etched in stone at this point. It was a debate for a while what the Jets would do with this pick, but in my opinion, I'm going to go with Arvell Reese. And the reason why I'm going with Reese over David Bailey is very simply put, given the coach that the Jets have in Aaron Glenn, who has experience both playing in the NFL and obviously coaching in it, I think he's going to know how to handle Arvell Reese. And I just think as a prospect, Reese is a better overall prospect than I think David Bailey is. And I'll talk more about Bailey in a second. But I just think, even though there's concerns about Reese being that tweener type and not really figuring out a position, I feel like if you are truly taking Arvell Reese this high, you have to have a clear, defined plan, something that he probably knows at this point, that if the Jets are taking him, which if he knows the Jets are taking him, then he knows he's a Jet. They probably have some clearly defined plan for him, and if they're doing that, then cool. Otherwise, you run into situations like Isaiah Simmons or even Travis Hunter last year, where these guys have these multiple positions, but teams don't really figure out what's the best move with them. So, at pick 3, the Cardinals are on the board. Except they're not. We're going to have a trade. The Cardinals want offensive line help, and a team is going to move up in this trade simulator. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason why the Chiefs are moving up here, in my personal opinion, they want to walk out of this draft with a true blue chip player. Again, the Chiefs are not a team that we expect are going to be drafting this high very often. One thing I will say is I wouldn't worry too much about compensation with this draft, mainly just because we don't know the truth. I mean, sometimes in life, the trades go for more or less, and other things happen to make them a little more wild. Forget what it was that I did specifically with this trade. But anyway. So, the reasoning why I think I'm going to have the Chiefs move up in this situation, and they're giving up a lot of picks to do so. I don't think it would cost this much in real life, but I'm mainly doing it just to do it. So, Chiefs get a third-round pick swap. They're doing all this stuff just to move up. I didn't want to really give up just 7. In reality, it probably would just take 74 moving up, but I also think the Cardinals are going to want some ammo here. So I gave them a few pieces because hintity hint hint, they're going to need that. So I'm giving the Cardinals some ammo. So a lot of this is mostly just that. We're going to propose this trade. I'm not going to, this is probably terrible value overall. I don't actually believe this is what it would cost to do it, but this is the Chiefs basically looking at this saying, hey, we're going to do this. I didn't want to give up pick 29, so we gave up other things. And the Chiefs take David Bailey, who I have mixed feelings about David Bailey. I really like him. My concern is if he goes this high, which if he's in conversations to go to the Jets at 2, then clearly teams are considering him this high. My concern is that is he a third overall worthy pass rusher, where he's going to have opportunities to be an every down, edge defender? Is he going to play the run? Because that's one of the biggest concerns for him. He's a good pass rusher, but his run defense does leave a lot to be desired, and is that something you really want to be taking top 3? Who knows? But the Chiefs really just need to get talent. And I think, in their opinion, they need to walk out of this top 10 with one of these blue chip players, and Bailey is one of them. So they take David Bailey. And now we get to the Titans, which is going to be another longer conversation point, which to me it's between 3 players, Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, or Ruben Bain. And it really just comes down to this for me. If we're speaking purely on the talent, Jeremiah Love is the most talented player here. And I understand, the Titans do technically have running backs already and other stuff, and their offensive line's not that good. I don't love putting running backs in these situations, but the fact of the matter is Jeremiah Love is extremely talented. And when it comes down to the pure value of the talent itself, you're gonna just do it. You kind of have to, because, it's similar with the Giants right now. Like, if the Giants take him, it's a similar situation. If some of these other teams picking here, maybe not Washington, but some of the other teams that would take him here this high, have similar situations. Again, when you're an elite prospect and you're going high in these drafts, you're not typically going to teams that have perfect situations for you. So, to me, for Jeremiah Love, this is not a pick for 2026 Titans. This is a pick for 2027, 2028, when the Titans have a chance to improve their offensive line, which, by the way, they can in this class. They have plenty of draft picks to do so, and guard is particularly strong in this class, so they'll be able to do that. So, I am going to take Jeremiah Love here, and I'm not going to look back. So, the Giants are on the board, and they made headlines recently with the Dexter Lawrence trade over to the Bengals. I really liked the deal more so from the Giants side than the Bengals side. I get why the Bengals did it, because they figured they weren't going to get one of these top defensive players in this draft class, which I understand. Unfortunately, I just thought the pick value in and of itself was just a touch much. I would have liked to maybe see like Dexter Lawrence and like a third or something come back, then I'd feel a little bit better about it. I had done mock drafts where I gave the Bears Dexter Lawrence straight up for pick 25, but the value difference between pick 25 and pick 10 is pretty great, so that's why it's more than the Giants used to draft Dexter Lawrence outright. So, whoops. Anyway, that little tangent aside, I do love this for the Giants as much as I'm an Eagles fan and I hate the Giants. So, I'm going to go with Sonny Styles. Let's get someone who can be a captain on this defense, or at least will be pretty soon, I imagine. A defense that was pretty awful last year. There goes the Giants. They get Sonny Styles. So the Browns are on the board. So I mentioned earlier that the Cardinals wanted to get ammunition. And they're going to use it. Because the Cardinals are going right back up to here to the 6. And the reason why the Cardinals here going up to 6, I don't think it'll cost that much. Cardinals don't have a 3rd round pick, so we're just going to give them pick 70. The Browns will get a second round pick. So they're giving up a second to gain a 3rd back. So they're basically moving back 30 places. That's the value here. Actually, I might throw in another pick just to sweeten the pot a little bit. Because the Cardinals, they kind of, wheeled and dealed. I don't want to give them another 4th. We'll give you a future 4th. There you go. Again, I'm not overly concerned about draft compensation. I'm more just trying to move chess pieces around. We can argue in the comments what the true value would be. So the Cardinals are back on the board, and now they take Francis Mauigoa. This is not really a draft where the top players are guys that, you absolutely need to, these are, the best of the best of the best. These are good players, really good players, but these aren't all, Mauigoa in other years' drafts would not be the first tackle off the board, nor would he go this high, but I think that, given the situation this year, his value is increased because of the scarcity of really, really good tackles in this class, and they're going to go pretty quickly, in my opinion, on Thursday night, because good tackles always go fast, but Mauigoa comes off the board. So I basically just did the same thing the Cardinals did in 2023 when they traded back with the Texans and then traded up. Not exactly as extreme because they went back to 12 and then up to 6. I just went back to 9 and then back up to 6. Washington's on the board. I have flirted with trading this pick because Washington has, no draft capital in this class and they need a lot of different things. But there are some players available, and to be honest, it's hard to trade out of this spot. Carnell Tate is here, Ruben Bain is here, Caleb Downs is here, and to me, of the 3 of these guys that I would go with Caleb Downs. Let's give Washington a really good player. Scroll up here. And onto the board now are the Saints. So they have come marching in. Carnell Tate is on the board. They could go Mansour Delane. They have Ruben Bain on the board. And to me, this is this is a tough decision. But I'm going to go Ruben Bain here. And the reason why I'm going Ruben Bain is, very simply put, let's improve that pass rush. And I know that the Saints fans are right now screaming, they need to take a receiver. You know, you can find receivers, especially because you have Olave. You're really looking for 2s and 3s, and you can find those throughout this class, so I think you'll be okay there. Not a lot of, I do feel like the edge rushers become very role play heavy, and I think Ruben Bain for the Saints could be a monster who can fill in the shoes of Cameron Jordan, especially being gone now. The Browns on the board, and they get to take the player that they probably would have taken at 6, Carnell Tate, give the Browns a receiver that at least could, I don't know if he is truly a wide receiver 1, but it's a guy that's going to help out that receiving core and give whoever the hell's playing quarterback help at that position. Giants are back on the board. And in this situation, it's really between 2 players. It's, you know, the dream for the Giants would be taking like Sonny Styles and then, you know, Caleb Downs falls, and you could take both Ohio State guys, or like, or even Carnell Tate if he falls, they would take him too, or like Jeremiah Love at 5, and then like an offensive lineman. And to me, the pick is between 2 players, and it's between Spencer Fano and Jordan Tyson. And there was a lot of hype this past weekend after the Dexter Lawrence trade about the Giants and Jordan Tyson, and it feels to me that like if he's on the board here at this spot, which he is, I could see Jordan Tyson falling due to injuries, but I think if he's here and the Giants really trust him and want him, I think they're going to take him. So Tyson comes off the board. Dolphins are on the board. They can go a lot of different directions. They can go offensive line. They could go corner. And I would take Spencer Fano here for the Dolphins. Yes, they need corner, but I think they can find that later on in this class. Not a lot of Spencer Fanos in this class, and they can move him pretty much wherever they want on the offensive line. Just get a good player and figure it out. So now the Cowboys, the bane of my existence, are on the draft board. And I don't think this is a very difficult decision. And if this is what the board comes out to, I think they sprint to the pole, sprint up to the podium, and they take Mansour Delane, the cornerback out of LSU. Just incredibly, honestly, I feel like he's a little bit of an underrated prospect. Just someone in this class that's just exceptionally good. If you read like his stats, especially when he's in man coverage, they're insane for a cornerback. But anyway, so the Dallas Cowboys get a defensive player, and I think especially getting themselves a corner. When Christian Parker joined the Eagles, when they've added Vic Fangio and all that in 2024, their first draft pick was Quinyon Mitchell. And they really went to fix their secondary. Because if you remember 2023, the Eagles' defense was terrible. And a lot of my draft strategy is informed by the key pieces of what exist within the Eagles' defense now and what Dallas is missing. And I feel like that's the kind of stuff they're looking for. A corner that can play man and zone at a very high level. And someone you can play similarly to Quinyon Mitchell, where you can just put him on an island and make him handle, you know, the number 1, and everyone else kind of handles the other side and stuff like that. He can kind of start rolling coverage to opposite sides of the field and whatnot. So the Rams are on the board. A lot of people have mocked Mekhi Lemon to the Rams, and I understand that pick. I really like Mekhi Lemon. I think he's one of my favorite receivers in this class. But, and this is a but here, I just don't think he's their type of receiver, and there's someone I would rather them get. But I'm not going to take him here. Because a team right now is frantically calling the Rams, and it's the New York Jets. I don't think I've ever seen anyone suggest this for the Rams, and that's a trade back. I know that the whole talk is the Rams are all in, and they need to, they're trying to be all in, they're trying to win now, and all that stuff. The Jets' draft capital is weird, so I'll probably just do a pick swap of their second round picks. So the Rams move up in the second round, the Jets move back. So there you go. Jets are on the board, and they take Makai Lemon. I think, personally, Makai Lemon is my favorite receiver in this class. He is just someone that, every time I watch him, he makes these incredible catches in tight situations. You know, he finds a way to get open. It's just clutch catch after clutch catch after clutch catch, and I just appreciate a wide receiver who can do that. Ravens on the board. We're going to be boring. I'm not even wasting time on this pick. We're just going to take Vega Ioane and add him to the Ravens, because everyone and their mother has drafted this. And he's here, and he's off the board. Here we go. We're going to move up. Next batch of picks. Bucks are on the board. And if you asked me before this weekend for Tampa Bay, I might have given them Jermod McCoy. But with the injury stuff that just came out, I just have too many questions. I really like them taking Akeem Mesidor, but he's... Do I dare give Tampa Akeem Mesidor at 15? I think a small part of them would like to trade up, or trade out of the spot, I should say. But I think you just got to take Mesidor and just move on with your life here at the spot. And you're getting a player that is going to help you now, going to help you today, not someone that you have to develop. Rams are back on the board. And many of you are wondering, who are the Rams going to take here? Are they going to take the receiver that I'm thinking of? No, because they're going to move back again. The Rams need draft capital. They moved up in the second round, but they didn't really add picks. So, a team that needs tackle is going to move up the board, call the Rams, and they're going to start offering some stuff, because the Steelers are here, and they have some draft capital. Right, they're going to throw in a third-round pick here. They could add more, because the Steelers, if I'll show you in a sec, have a lot of picks. And the Rams literally go from 93 to 200 something. So, whoops, I didn't mean to give them that. So I'll just throw in a fifth. So it's a third and a fifth. They have a lot of thirds. They take that. There you go. Steelers on the board. They take Monroe Freeling from one Georgia tackle to another. He's off the board. And now the Lions on the board. And this has been one of my favorite players to mock to the Lions. They need a tackle. And after watching some of the stuff he did in college, I just think that the Lions would have so much fun with him if he can maintain his weight. And that's Caden Proctor. I mean, Bama literally lined him up as a wildcat quarterback and ran him at the goal line. They threw screens to him, and it reminds me so much of what they did with Dan Skipper. Now, would they do that with their starting left tackle? I mean, they ran plays with Penei Sewell. They ran a pass play where Penei Sewell was going to throw a pass on Thanksgiving, where he ironically ended up getting sacked. The Lions, they don't care. They'll do all this fun stuff. And guess what? They don't have to move Penei Sewell. They just move Caden Proctor to left tackle. I think the culture is good enough that it'll help him maintain his weight. And I don't think they'll have really any significant issues there. Vikings, sorry, but we're going to be chalky here. Dylan Thieneman is a Minnesota Viking. He comes off the board. Not just because he's a white safety, but generally based on the board at this point, I think he's the best player in this class. Panthers are on the board. This could be offensive line. This could be receiver. But there's a really talented tight end on the board, and I think this is where the slide ends. Carolina Panthers, they take Kenyon Sadiq. Tight end. Here we go. So, Cowboys are on the board here. This is kind of a little bit of a reach, but at this point it's getting harder to kind of dictate who's going to trade up, who's going to trade out. But I'm going to give the Cowboys C.J. Allen. Give them a linebacker, because one of the big parts of, again, this defense that Christian Parker is going to run for them is linebacker. And the Eagles, when they added Zach Bond, and even like early in the season with Jahad Campbell, and when Nakobe Dean was healthy, you saw how good those linebackers were, and how good it made the offense. Or it made the defense, excuse me. So, to me, you add in a Georgia Bulldog, not doing that purposely for that reason, I just think he's the best linebacker on the board at this spot. You add him to this defense, and now I think the Cowboys, you walk out of the first round with a really good corner and a really good linebacker, and you have now starting to take some of the baby steps to fixing this defense. Rams are on the board here, and I have them taking receiver. And the receiver I have them taking is Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M. I have my issues with him and his drops, but the things that he can do, especially with a quarterback that's actually accurate, is incredible. He's got great speed, probably the fastest receiver in this class, or at least might be, based off of tape and whatnot. And a big thing for the Rams, he's a very good special teamer. And Lord knows they needed help on special teams. When we all remember the NFC Championship and basically Xavier Smith's big blunder. So you add Concepcion, you get a really good receiver, and you added draft capital. Chargers on the board here. Chargers are kind of a hard team to draft for because you kind of have to, whatever you do here, you kind of have to reach unless they trade back. But I think at this point, they don't waste time. Emmanuel Pregnon, get over here, you're a Charger. I've thought about Keldrick Falk to the Chargers, but instead we're going to do Pregnon. Eagles are on the board, my team. And if you've watched my mock drafts, I've talked them up a lot. And I think this is the perfect player to eventually replace Lane Johnson. It's Max Ionichor, the tackle out of Arizona State. Welcome to the Eagles. Browns are on the board again. So early on with their picks, they took, I believe they took Carnell Tate, right? Just double checking for the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, they took Tate. So Tate's off the board. They need a tackle. Caleb Lomu is here. And Caleb Lomu, welcome to the Cleveland Browns. On the board is now the Chicago Bears. And the Bears are, I think, the hardest team to draft for in the first round. Because they kind of don't really have... Like, the things that they have needs for in the first round don't really line up. Like, you could think about tackle. Blake Miller is still here. But they could take him, but I don't think they were going to take a right tackle, especially. But we're going to go defense, and we're going to take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo. He goes to Chicago. Buffalo Bills are are up to draft. I cannot talk for some freaking reason. I think it's Caden McDonald, the D tackle. The Bills had a really rough run defense last year, and they need to fix that, and they need to fix it in various ways. Adding Caden McDonald does that. It bolsters the defensive line. And on now are the Niners. And to me, the Niners have a pretty solid receiving trio of Ricky Pearsall, Mike Evans, and Christian Kirk, until one of them, or more likely all of them, get hurt. And they all have had fairly injury-plagued careers to this point. Nobody purposefully has an injury-plagued career, but like extenuating circumstances for certain individuals, obviously. So, Omar Cooper is on the board here, and I think he really would fit the Niners as just that kind of dirty work extra receiver who's going to help block and stuff like that. He'll make catches. He's physical, and I'm not saying he is Deebo Samuel. He's nowhere near Deebo Samuel, but he does have some similar traits that Deebo exhibits, more so his physicality. Like, he's not as fast as Deebo or anything like that, but he has some of that physicality that they do kind of lack now without Deebo in their offense, and they can do some of the same things, nowhere near to the same extent that Deebo did it, but just some of those qualities. Texans are on the board. Coming up to the end of the first round, the final few picks. So, Javon McCoy is still on the board here. I'm not going to have that happen. I'm going to take Peter Woods, and we're going to sleep like a baby. Chiefs are on the board. And to me, we took edge already. Offensive line is something to discuss, and someone is slipping. And I think at this point, you've got to take off... They got to replace Jawan Taylor. Blake Miller's still here. Why not? He's a guy that's ready to go now. He's a better run blocker than pass blocker, but I'm sure the Chiefs can get him right. And now the Dolphins are on the board. Now, I have to kind of remind myself, I'm pretty sure I took Spencer Fano when I did these picks earlier. Let's see. Yeah, I took Spencer Fano. Dolphins are on the board. At this point, for the Dolphins, who would I take? Would I just go Keldrick Falk and just add to the defensive line room? Let's just fix the trenches. I mean, that's a great place to start when you're a rebuilding team. I would just say, screw it, let's get Keldrick Falk. Patriots are on the board here. And I'll be honest, based on the board, they could go a couple of different directions, but I think that instead, someone else is actually going to call. And it's Arizona again. I think, for me, I totally understand the Ty Simpson conversation for the Cardinals. And I think this is just a very minor, we'll just throw in one of our 4th round picks here. Boom. Cardinals move up. And I think this is Ty Simpson. Very simply put, if you're the Cardinals, I mean, I look at this roster, especially its offense, and the Cardinals' offense isn't terrible. Like, they need help on the offensive line. We fix that. They have some receivers. They have a tight end. They have some running backs. They just need to figure out quarterback. They have the whole thing with Jacoby Brissett going on right now, and they're basically trusting Gardner Minshew. They could suck next year and get a quarterback then, but, I mean, we saw the Titans take quarterbacks day 3 or day 2 years in a row. And they still ended up taking Cam Ward 2 years later. So I don't think it's that much of a thing stopping you here. I just think that the Cardinals are a little better than people think, and I honestly thought that through the regular season. I just thought they were really injured and unlucky. But the Cardinals, they're going to take Ty Simpson. And now on the board are the Seattle Seahawks. And I'll be honest, both Tennessee corners are here. They need to replace Reek Woolen. They need another corner. They're not, desperate for a corner. They can obviously work with Witherspoon and Josh Jobe, former Eagle Josh Jobe. And why not just take Jermod McCoy? He fell here in this situation. You just stash him on the Seahawks offense, and here we go. So, this is the full first round mock draft. I'm not going to read off all the names. Anyways, this is Bird Brain. Welcome to the channel. We're just one day away now from the draft. I hope you guys all enjoyed. And remember, fly Eagles fly. See you all around.